entrepreneurs, local and international business. The Be Smart Services Hot Seat goes behind the scenes to see what makes their business stand out from the crowd.
Good day, everyone. I'm Klarissa from Be Smart Services, and today we are joined by a very special guest, Catherine Baudino. Good morning, Catherine, and a very warm welcome to you.
Good morning, and send us, I'm in London, so send us some of that heat over here, will you?
Oh, yes, it's such a pleasure to have you with us, Catherine, and it's such a pleasure to have someone from London to join us today. It's great to have you with us. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Catherine, I would like to ask you today, can you maybe give us a little bit of background about your career and about the languages you speak?
Okay, yeah. So my career, I suppose you could say it's quite contrarian. I started off with getting a PhD in literature aged 23 with a view to lecture. And then I got disgruntled with academia, so decided to go into the corporate world. And of course, I received loads of rejections in those days, when in the 70s. Late 70s, you did everything by post and with letters. And I received an A4 file of rejections telling me either that I was overqualified or that I was lacking in experience. But ultimately, my entry into the corporate world was because I'm trilingual. And it has been the case throughout my corporate career. The key in has been my languages. From there, I just to bring you up to date, from there, I took 9 years off to become a carer for my parents. So while some women say take time off to have a child, I took time off to look after two very old children. And it took me 9 years, during which I could not work. And my career was somewhat interrupted, but I managed to do a bit of mentoring here and there, mainly with the children of friends of mine who were thinking about their future careers or coming out of university, not knowing what to do. And ultimately, I knew it wouldn't be possible to go back to the corporate world. 9 years out of the sink, you're done and dusted as far as the corporate's concerned. And it's been written about quite a lot. So the only answer was to set something up for myself. And I decided to use my knowledge of, if you like, my ability to teach, my academic background, which was to teach and to enrich people, with my corporate background, to become a business coach and an executive coach and a business strategist. And so that's what I do now. I do it under the brand of Dr. Catherine, and I'm loving what I do. So my languages, I was born in England in London of French parents. French was my mother tongue till the age of 5. When I went to the French lycée, and again, contrarian, true to my being contrarian, instead of going to the lycée to learn French, as all my contemporaries were doing, I went to the lycée and I learned English. Fortunately, I had quite a good teacher, so I think my English is not too bad for a second language. And then my third language is Italian, which I learned during my university years during the summer months. So, and I'm fluent in Italian.
Wow, that is brilliant, Catherine. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. You're a very big inspiration and you're a very talented person, I can definitely tell. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And Catherine, Catherine, now that you mention these languages and the fluency that you've got for these languages, can you maybe tell our viewers how it is that you got your very first job?
My very first job was for, believe it or not, for an import-export company who were importing, amongst other things, frozen prawns from Thailand. They decided, the owner, however, decided, it was quite a small company, and they decided that they would hire somebody who could speak languages rather than have a trader who knew how to trade. And so they would hire a linguist to learn how to trade. I knew nothing about letters of credit. I knew nothing about shipping. I didn't know why some people were being paid a commission. I mean, I was so naive, it's unreal. But fortunately, I'm a fast learner. And I got on with the job and then went on from there. So you see what I mean when I say my languages were my entry point, my key, you know, literally the key that opens the door.
Wow, that is so brilliant, Catherine. You're not everyone in today's life can say that. So yeah, we're very happy to have you with us, and we are so fortunate to be able to learn from you. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Catherine, I can see that you're a very professional and also a very successful coach. Like you've mentioned, you're a career coach, you're a communication coach, you're also a life coach and an executive coach. Now, I'm a little bit interested in the communication and tacit messaging. Can you perhaps tell us a little bit more about that?
Indeed. It's a subject that's very close to my heart. Perhaps it's because I am multilingual. You know, the ability to communicate with other people in their language and respect their culture is very, very close to me, and has made me aware also of the importance of communication with people who speak the same language or allegedly speak the same language, because very often we have our own language and we don't realize it. So it might be English, but in fact, we have different ways of talking, different ways of thinking. And in the book I'm writing at the moment, I mentioned various forms of communications and the importance of them. Perhaps one of the most critical is the ability to say no, and how to say no. It's something that's prevalent in women, particularly, although it does happen with men. There's something about women in business called imposter syndrome, which says that they're not worthy of the job they're in and they should be doing something else. It's all been luck, and sooner or later they're going to be found out, you know. And that is the opposite, which is to say yes. So you have it on the one hand, people who do not know how to deal with their bosses, say, and don't know how to set up the necessary boundaries and to say no, and end up being overloaded and confused and everything else. And then there's the other side, which is to say yes and to accept that promotion and to go with that new title. And of course, then you have the ability to ask, because sometimes you have to make known to your boss that you're actually quite ambitious. And you need to ask for that job, because they're not aware you're after that job or that salary increase unless you ask for it. And then fourthly, another aspect of communications is tacit language. And that is absolutely fascinating. I did a video last week about tacit language and explained how certain you can, express yourself just by making a gesture, or indeed sometimes wearing a piece of jewelry. Senator Albright of the US, when she discovered that her offices were being bugged by the Russians, she wore a brooch for her meeting with her Russian counterpart, which was a bug. And guess what? The Russian knew that she knew they were being bugged, and she knew that he'd understood, and they could commence discussions at that point. So there are various things. And then having published or posted this video last week, I've had loads of responses from people saying how the British royal family use the same Tacit language in their messaging. So, for instance, the Queen at Christmas, she does a statement to the nation and the Commonwealth. She's sitting behind a desk with photos all around her. And those photos also indicate the importance of these people to the royal family. And then you have the most famous story of all, of course. That's Princess Diana in her revenge dress, that fabulous black Bruce Oldfield dress she wore with black stockings to go to the Serpentine Gallery. This was her announcing she was free and she was going to be a woman of herself. So all sorts of things, very often voluntary, actually communicate more than words themselves.
Wow,
Does that make sense?
wow, that's very fascinating, Catherine. Thank you so much. You really shared a lot with us right there, and you've actually given us a lot to think about because, like you say, communication it's very important, especially in the workplace, also in your personal life, everywhere you go, communication is a very important tool. And whether it's body language or whether it's physical words that you use, it's really important. So thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you for sharing those stories with us. Those were very, very interesting. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And Catherine, my next question would be, you've mentioned that you're an author. So I would like to know, can you tell us a little bit more about your book, Step Into My Shoes? What is that all about?
Okay, so I've had a very interesting life, both corporately and personally. And for many years, people have been saying, Catherine, you should write a book. Now, I'm not vain enough to believe that anybody wants to read Catherine Baudino's book. So it occurred to me that I should really write a book, maybe using my experiences and inviting the reader. And in fact, the reader is invited from page 1 to participate in my journey. And within each chapter, there is at least one section called Ask Yourself, where I invite the reader to write in paper, with a proper pencil or pen on the book, in the book, what they thought of that incident and how they would have behaved in those sort of circumstances. What can be learned from it? Can they learn something from it? Do they think I behaved in the wrong way, that I should have done something else? All these things. So stepping into my shoes is also a little, in French would say, a clin d'oeil. It's a wink to one of my fetishes, which is shoes. I appeared in a national newspaper only last month, surrounded with 100 shoes, which are all mine. And that's only one season's worth, two seasons worth of shoes. So stepping into my shoes is inviting the reader to live the experiences I have lived as if they were me.
Wow, that is so brilliant, Catherine. It really opens up a whole new world. The readers can actually experience what you've experienced, and like you say, they can also give their opinion in that book. So that's great. I really love that idea.
Thank you. I mean, thank you for getting the point. Because what I want is I want my book to be a workbook, effectively, something they can go back to and reflect on in 5 years' time, because in the meantime, they might have had experiences which would change their reactions, would change their behavior. So yes, I'm hoping. So it's a sort of biography stroke self-help book.
Wow, that's brilliant, Catherine. That's brilliant. Thank you for actually going and writing that book, and thank you for sharing it with your audience and also with us and the viewers, because I think that's something that all of us needs. And like you say, you can go back, you can reflect, and I think in a way that's something that can benefit all of us. So yeah, thank you once again for sharing that with us, Catherine. And is there anything that you would like to share with our viewers as a thought for them to remember?
Another thing and it goes back to communication again, and it's something I'm very keen on, and that is the use of humor, and particularly the use of humor at work, in the workplace. I have found I've had my parents as bullies, both of them, and I've had 3 bullying bosses. And the way I've dealt with them on each occasion is with humor, to dispel the situation. And I go even further. I would say that actually humor is a form of control. By using humor, you're changing the perspective, you're deflating the situation, which might be very tense at the time, or giving it a different edge. You're starting to control the situation rather than being led by it. So yeah, so I really would invite your readers to think about communication, the points I mentioned, saying yes, saying no, saying thank you. I forgot to say the bit about saying thank you, by the way, and the point about asking and tacit communications. And then to think about the power of humor within those forms of communication.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you so much. It's been such fun. Thank you, Klarissa.
Oh, thank you. It's only a pleasure, Catherine. It was such a great honor to have you with us. And if any of our viewers out there want to reach you or they want to purchase your book, what are your contact details and where can they purchase your book?
Okay, so the best way is to, for the moment, is to email me, Catherine at drcatherinecoaching.com. And that is the quickest way to get a copy. And the earlier the people get sign in, the more chances they have of having a signed copy as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Catherine. That's wonderful. And I believe you're on LinkedIn as well.
Yes, absolutely. So Catherine Baudino, Baudino. Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So for our viewers out there, if you want to get into contact with Catherine, you have her contact information and you have everything you need. Get those questions ready. Get those questions coming. There's a lot we can learn from this lady. Thanks again, Catherine. We really enjoyed it and we really had a lot of fun with you and we really learned a lot from you today.
Thank you, Klarissa. It's been such an enjoyable experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And we'll see you again next time. I'm Klarissa Boertes from Be Smart Services. Thank you.
You're listening to the Be Smart Services podcast. Subscribe to Be Smart Services by Klarissa Boertes on YouTube for inspiring interviews with local and international business owners.